You guys, I'm so excited to see you. It's been so long.
Has been a while.
Yeah.
What's still going on in your guys' lives? Anything exciting?
How's Joshua?
He's good.
How old is he now?
He's 3. I'm a little nervous about him. I'm trying to teach him kind of things, getting him ready for kindergarten. But his birthday's in August, so I don't know whether to start him.
That's right on the deadline.
Yeah, I don't know whether to start him early or hold him back. It's more common to hold boys back.
So you're thinking about redshirting him?
What's redshirting?
What's redshirting?
That's the term they use for that basic situation when somebody technically is old enough to go into school, but the parents will specifically, purposely hold them back so that they can kind of get have an advantage, basically, be one of the older students in class and have an advantage. So.
Do they have an advantage?
In some cases, yeah. I mean, we researched a bit when we were, with our kids. We looked a lot into it, trying to figure out, if we should do that with our kids. And I mean, there's some research that indicates that yeah, they do. There's some that indicates that they don't. But I think in our situation with our oldest, I think he probably could have benefited from waiting. I don't think he was emotionally ready to be there.
Really?
And the interesting thing is that one of the articles that we read was talking about teachers and principals. They asked the educators themselves, what they thought about kids' readiness to be in school. And they said about 50% of them said that about 50% of the students were not ready, whether they couldn't follow directions or, a number of different things that they kind of categories they looked at, but they said about 50% of them weren't.
That's a high number.
I was
That's a really
surprised.
high number.
I was surprised. It's kind of true though with my kids. I think my oldest and my youngest both kind of could have benefited from waiting a little bit, but my middle two, they were fine. So I'm right at that 50% line personally.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between boys and girls?
I think with my family, yeah, I've got my 2 girls were good. My 2 boys are the ones that I think could have benefited. I don't know if that's in all cases, but in my experience, that's kind of how it was.
Huh.
Now you have kids, and what did you do with
Well,
yours?
I only had that problem with one of them, and particularly the year that she started, they even backed up the deadline further into October. So that when my daughter started school, this was Lindsay, she was only 4. And this is before, you gotta know, this is before a lot of people were even putting their kids into preschool. And bless her little heart, she'd come home from school those first few days just in tears because it was hard. She was having to take a bus to school and the whole situation was different. And I honestly called the teacher and thought, I'm pulling her out. I'm not gonna leave her in. 4's too young. And the teacher said, no, put her in. She's too smart. You're going to be sorry. She's going to be bored if you don't have her in and she doesn't have that challenge. So I kept her in, and Lindsay was really glad that we did because she got to graduate when she was 17, and she fit in. She never had problems with it, but she was never involved in sports a lot. And I know that that's a problem sometimes because if you've got boys that are younger and they're smaller,
They don't mature as
yeah,
fast.
they don't mature as fast, and so sometimes the sports issue can be a problem for some.
So
Michaela,
what about, I've heard about kids needing to play. So I've read a little bit about letting them play and learn and hold them.
Mm-hmm.
And like some other countries, they wait until age 7 to put them in. So
Right.
that's a pretty big difference, is that.
Our school is more structured learning and not as freely, letting the kids be themselves and learn at their own pace and figure things out by themselves by playing. Our school is more, this is how it is. And
personally, even though I sent my daughter when she was 4, if I had to do it all again, and if it was a little boy I was worried about, I'd keep him out. Because I think that time, learning through the play rather than the structure of school works better with how their brain is developing. And I don't know. I've read some things on it. My daughter's really into it, as far as whether you should teach them at home or, let them go to school.
There's a lot on that about learning by play instead of a
Right,
formal classroom
right.
setting.
And it really works. That's how the kids learn, is by playing. That's how their brain works. And that you can't, they need to have that time. In fact, I even read an article that said children that don't start formal schooling until age 9 are even better off because they have all that time to just be a kid. And we don't have, kids, once they get into school and there's homework and everything, they don't have the time to play. They don't have the time to be a kid. So if they delay it till the age of 9 and they start learning then, they quickly catch up to all the kids that have been in school for that period of time, but emotionally they're better off.
They're ready for it.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I personally feel 9's a little old.
Yeah.
However, I think that the play and the learning by playing is an important factor. And I know that there's schools that focus on different methods and everything. Like our kids go to a charter school, and they teach and they do everything completely different than just the regular public schools do. And I know that there are some schools that focus on, in the early ages, learning through play. And so that might be something to check out too. Now you were young, weren't you, when you went into kindergarten?
Yeah, I was young. I graduated when I was 17, and I really liked that fact because I was able to start on my life a little bit sooner in my career and wasn't a little bit older. And it seemed to work out, well for me, but I think it's situational and how each kid handles things and where they're at that point when they're 4 or 5 and if they're ready for it.
Did you ever feel out of place, or that you didn't, well, like we brought up the sports thing before. Did you participate in sports when you were in school?
I played soccer throughout middle school and high school, and I didn't really notice a difference.
You didn't feel like it held you back at all in anything?
Although I was a girl, and girls and guys sports are different.
Yeah,
so
it makes a big difference with
versus
the girls
a little
and
boy,
guys.
and if he's into sports, he might feel
A little younger.
a lot younger.
Well, especially if you wanted to get into something, soccer is something that all the kids do. But like if you wanted to do football or basketball,
You need to be bigger.
you need to be bigger to be able to do something like that. For some people, the sports are a really big deal.
Some of the research that we did when we were looking into all that talked specifically about that.
Yeah.
Talked specifically about the fact that, younger kids, boys specifically, because of just the smaller stature and everything, that they fell behind in those categories, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. To me, it would seem like, I want to give my kid as much of an advantage as I possibly can in putting him in school.
Mm-hmm.
And if it means keeping him back, there's still things, and you've still got time. He's only 3.
I still have a couple of
Yeah,
years.
you've still got a couple of years, and there's things that you can do at home, even through playing, that is going to stimulate his learning.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, if it were me, and I'm not telling you what to do, I'm not telling you, I'm just saying I'd probably keep him back. But then again, it's such an
Just
individual
depends
thing.
on
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of the research has been that it's up and you can find research to
You
support
can
anything
go both
you want.
ways, absolutely.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, there's a lot of research that shows that they do get that head start when you start them younger. Not only that, there's a lot of people that think that the age should be pushed back or pushed up a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Just to give them that earlier start like you had, get done with school and be able to enter the workforce and
More
contribute
established at a younger
economically.
age
Yeah.
and making money
Yeah.
and being able to
Tell you
create
what, if
that
I could
life
have
you
my
want.
kids take care of me by the time I'm 4 or 5, I'd be happy.
Well, I think that gets us into a whole different kind of conversation, but, neither here nor there.
I think
Yeah.
you have plenty of time to research and weigh the pros and the cons and advantages and disadvantages and apply that to your child specifically and see which one works better for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're doing good. I think you've got some good questions, and it's all going to be good for you. You'll do fine. You're a good mom. You'll do fine.